Hey, there we go. Sorry about the delay, folks. Good evening there, Lorain. How are you guys doing tonight? Lorain City, Lorain County. I don't know where you're tuning in from. Maybe you're tuning in from Vermilion. Maybe you're tuning in from Sheffield, Sheffield Lake, Sheffield Village. I don't know. You could be in Elyria. You could be in Texas. You could be anywhere. That's right, folks. You could be anywhere. Well, I'm on right now. Sorry about that. Yeah, like it for whatever reason didn't want to kick in today. It just kept saying live, 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 going live, but it didn't go live. So we got a lot to talk about tonight. That's right, we got a lot to talk about. Hey, we got to talk about tonight. We're going to talk about with the powerful. We're going to talk about what happened at the meeting on Monday night. And, we're going to understand that tonight we're going to be diving deep into the chaos at City Council, the fight that continues for transparency, the rise of citizen activism, and the potential for change in Lorain. Like, we got this going. So, right now, understanding the current political climate is just crazy. I get it. Democrats, Republicans, like at the federal level, we got all kinds of clashes going on. And we got people on both sides of the fence. And, arguably, I'm doing a little red. So, I'm on the Republican side of the fence, and everyone else seems to be just running against me, or others is on the Democrat side of the fence. And so, understanding that, I want you to understand, like, I'm using this podcast to try and foster a community dialogue, to try and get information out there, and to just sort of talk about what's going on in Lorain. So, first off, we're going to talk about Monday's council meeting. So let's just get to the nitty gritty of that. So I watched that, and I'm also going to bring in to the conversation this opinion piece that appeared in our local news. And I want to say, hey, you know what? I love what Joseph and the boys are doing over there. You guys got to support Vermilion and Lorain daily. They're doing some great work. Understanding that even the Chronicle is going digital, guys. And so while the Chronicle is out there posting stories about, national and federal news, Lorain and Vermilion Daily are posting stories about just that, Lorain and Vermilion Daily. I love what they're doing. I love what Joseph's out there doing and his brother's doing. I fully support everything they're doing. They've been putting some hard hitting editorial pieces out lately that kind of make me jealous. Like whoever Frank is, but I just got to say, like, Joseph, I love what you're doing, and I love the fact that I got to read these articles that you put out lately. It hits home, folks. When you look at that and you look at what he's putting out there, and you look at the conversation that's being had about what happened that night in council, and talking about Arredondo and his history, and um, I knew he'd been around for a while, but again, I'm always getting educated on people. I didn't realize how long Joel had been in office and all of that good stuff. So we started talking about Monday night's council meeting. So it started off rough, right? Like, Joel is basically backtracking and saying why we didn't get to charge or whatever happened, or he had to eat it and say it was me. It was my fault. I didn't follow these procedures. Now, I believe that when the questions were asked about, well, granted you didn't follow those procedures, but who voted on those procedures? And so there were no real procedures there. When you guys look at like the actual laws, and when you read those editorials, that talk about what happened, it clearly lays this stuff out. And so Monday night, he starts off. I thought he started off solid. Like, I give Joel credit. He laid down the rules. He starts talking to them about the rules. He's putting it out there for everybody. And he says, we've had some issues in the past. And he kind of brushes past a lot of it. But he says, no more, right? Like, everyone gets 2 minutes. Like, council's going to be respectful. Like, he's trying to herd them back in like a bunch of chickens, right? That's kind of the way I saw it. When I was looking at it, it's just like a bunch of crazy chickens running around, and then Joel's up there at the front trying to like hold it all together. Thank you. Miss Sprinkowski, thank you. And so I laugh because he's look, better or for worse, whether you guys like him or not, he is the president of council. And his job is to maintain order in that building. And honestly, I believe in my heart of hearts, he was doing that night. I read through that narrative piece that was written in the Lorain Daily, and they're not far off, right? Like, you start looking at the fact that she was yelling at me, and I've never met Tia in person. I've never met most of these people in person. Like, that night was my first night ever seeing, Aiden. I don't know these people. I don't know a lot of people. I'm learning the hard way who people are, and how people are, and what people are, and it's scary, you know. But I didn't know any of these people, and so I'm reading this article, and I'm like, all right, well, it makes a lot of sense. Okay, so without delving too much into that previous one, look at Monday night. On Monday night, he sets the standard. He says everything right. Like, he starts rolling through the meeting. Thank you. Thank you. Please vote. Please vote. Please vote. Thank you. Discussions? No. Move and file. And then bam, suddenly we end up in the public comments. And he's made it very clear that we're only going to allow for 2 minutes for each speaker, right? And on this particular night, there were 10 people there. And the reason why there were 10 people there was because Main Street Lorain wants to get their chunk of the funding. And, we'll get into that later. But the Main Street Lorain party was there. So most of it was fluff people just talking about, like, hey, this is important. We need this. And arguably, if you look at the research, it is important. But that's not the point. There were 10 people speaking. And with a 20-minute time limit, if you allowed 2 minutes per speaker, that's 20 minutes, right? The one thing the article didn't really discuss was that time limit. And that's the one thing I kind of focused in on was, all right, if you have 10 speakers, because that's what they said in the video, because that's all I saw was the video from from the parking lot of Guidestone. And so I'm watching the video and I go, well, if you have 10 speakers and you have 2 minutes per speaker, and council rules say 20 minutes only, right? 20 minutes only. I bet if Garen or someone were to go back and count the minutes on that meeting, the public comment section went over 20 minutes. And all they did was vote on Miss Zelina. And as the article said, why this time? Like, article. It's not really an article. I guess it's an opinion piece. Like, right? Like, I mean, first off, frankly virtuous. I like it. I approve. I get it. I like puns, but I see the narrative and opinion, and I do have to agree. Like, all right, why this person? When you listen to the meeting, you hear the first people coming up, right, and everyone that came up, got to the end of their tail, right, the tail end of their speech, and you hear the little beeper go off, beep 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 beep. So your time's up, and they're like, oh yeah, I know my time's up. So they move forward a little bit more, and it begrudgingly, Joel let each person have a couple extra, says. Not 2 minutes, right? He gave them like 20, 25, 30 seconds. Now, we're going to get to the First Amendment side of this a little bit later, but he gives them like 20, 30 seconds, and grand scheme, great. Roll through all these people, and you get to Joanne. And listen, I gotta point out, like, especially to Garen who's watching, like, she seems to be the topic, like the start and finish and topic of all of our conversations. Like, this woman was the reason we were asking for the questions from the court that they were talking about the day that Garen went in, and I guess I'm the online news agency. For the record, Lorain Daily and Vermilion Daily are the online news agencies. I know I portray myself to be a news agency. I do provide news, and I do consider myself a news agency. I also consider myself a little bit of entertainment, but the real news agencies are what they're doing. Vermilion Daily and Lorain Daily are providing you news. I am helping educate people when it comes to the news. I'm helping, break this stuff down into smaller pieces. I take what they write and then I'm going to talk about it. And that's what we're doing tonight, right? Like I'm going to dissect that narrative, that opinion piece by Frank and the other one and kind of just go through it. But when you look at like everything that went down was just insanity that night, like because again it you had all these people, not insanity I guess because that's a strong word, but you had all these people that were speaking that probably would have liked a couple extra seconds, right? I know like two or three of them we almost had to like push off the mic, and I get it, 2 minutes is difficult. I want you guys to fathom this thought. So when I went to speak on one night knowing that if it's me, I know if it's me, when that beeper goes off, I'm done. Right? So let's acknowledge that. When that beeper goes off, I'm done. When that beeper goes off, Garen's done. Like when that beeper goes off, we're done. We're done. Right? Done. No mas. And if we try to speak past that, time is up, your time is up, that's what the response would be. So that's the idea of the article. I guess the question is what about me? But whatever. I guess it's not always about me. Garen is the one they used, and rightfully so. Look, Garen's the one that's in the criminal charges, right? And arguably because I sent him there, and I'm running the news agency. I sent Garen there to get this information about what Bradley said when Zelina got to speak that one night. Joanne was speaking, and they made fun of her. And when you look her up, like just look her up, guys. Look her voting record up. Like she's a Democrat. She's 90 years old. She's been in this county forever. And quite frankly, I feel like if we were going to give someone some extra time to speak in the grand scheme of things, if we're going off respect and all of this, we would let her speak. Now, the article calls her out and others, and I get that because what did make her special? What does make someone special enough to have an extra 2 minutes? And honestly, was that really 2 minutes worthy of that time? Because what is she saying that's that important? Like, God bless her, I love her to death, but when she gets in there and starts talking about when Nixon was in office, and I'm like, look, I get that you were around back when we helped vote Carter into office, but I wasn't. And I believe we should listen to our elders and we should be present and we should always be aware of people's experience. But listen, I if anyone knows long-winded, it's me. Okay? I'm long ass winded. So I digress. When I went up, I wrote my stuff down. I narrowed it down and I timed myself speaking it out. So I knew I got to 2 minutes exactly. Because I understand what they're going to do to me, what they're going to do to a Garen, what they're going to do to a, arguably a Brandon Wysocki who, got onto his board position, but with much ado, right? With a Jane Morales, with these people that are not necessarily cheer squads of the county, right? So we're like, woo, woo, 29 minutes. All right, right there. So they went over 9 minutes by their own rules. 9 minutes. And in that, I can always count on you, Garen. And so when you start looking at that, you see this breaking down. So Joel's got a handle on it, right? He says this. I mean, dude, I want to give it to Joel that night. I'm liking what he was throwing out that night. Look, I got hearing aids now. So you jackasses better not be out here doing dumb stuff because I can hear you now. And then he's like, and while I thought he was a little, listen, man, y'all threw him under the bus. Like he had every right to say and do what he did that night. It is his meeting. Whether we like it or not, folks, you vote him in as president. If he is the president of council, it's his freaking meeting. It's his to run as he sees fit. He is the final say. I know you guys don't like to admit that, but he's the final say. So if you don't like that, then you need to change that. Or you need to just be quiet. So when he tells you 3 times to get the hell out, you got to get the hell out. That's just the way it works. I mean, arguably, when Garen, before the video cuts off, you see him go, "Get out of here." And Garen's like, "Ah," and then he leaves. And so he left. Get told once, he leaves. That's the way trespassing works. See, that's the difference between everyone else, like that plan to be there and plan to disrupt the meeting. People like Garen and I and others understand our constitutional rights. Okay, we understand that you have to tell us to leave. We understand that that's a public building. It may have restricted access, but it also has public access. We understand where and when we can go into certain areas. We don't just disrupt the lawful meeting and start yelling at folks, right? Again, the one article talked about how MTA was yelling at me. I didn't really think about that. I'm not a government official. As much as everyone would love me to be right now, that's why I can block people from my pages. That's why I can still do what I want. And that's kind of why I'm doing it right now. Call it getting it out of my system. Because once I get into office, and rest assured, guys, I know a lot of people don't think that that's going to happen, but I think you underestimate how many Republicans there are in this town. I think you don't really look at the independent versus the Democrat and Republican voters. And the independent voters are the ones that I believe that I met that are definitively all about fixing our streets, all about doing things simply, right? Stop being difficult with everything. I've given you my stances on that. And so when I win, like, that kind of stuff isn't going to be the way that it's going to go. We're not going to have people to, I'm going to shut my page down. It's going to be nothing but, there'll be, I'll block it off so it's private, and I'll have nothing but a government page. And that's how we'll deal with it. So anyway, I give it to Joel. He attempted to maintain order. And, we'll talk about the effectiveness of his strategies. Like, he was like, all right. And at one point, Mary stands up and unorthodoxly votes to let this person have 2 extra minutes. Joanne gets 2 extra minutes. Now, I look back at what Joel is trying to do, and it leads me to question, like, well, I respect him. I respect him as an elder and the time that he's been in office. And I respect the fact that he's got new hearing aids a lot. And I respect the fact that he basically laid it down at the beginning of that meeting. It also brings the question, when we start looking at people and age and, do you have a control over those individuals who may have a louder voice than you? And on Monday night, I feel like maybe he didn't. But that's an opinion, obviously. I do believe that there's an impact, when it comes like to their ability to address or not address the decorum within that building. And what I see right now is the council scared. Joel's has they yanked all the authority out of that council, right? So on one hand, you laid the hammer down on Garen, and on the other, you were like, whatever with Tia. And then the next immediate chance you get to answer that question, what do? You're like, let's just vote to give this person 2 extra minutes to talk about when, back when FDR was in office. And look, I get it. Everyone loves a great story, but people got places to be. You gonna give her 2 extra minutes? And that goes back to that article. So would you give Garen 2 extra minutes? Would you give Jane 2 extra minutes? Would you give me 2 extra minutes? Would you give, you didn't give anyone else that night 2 extra minutes. Now, by your own rules, you have every right to give and take as many minutes or as you want, right? It's your meeting. It's Joel's meeting. He acquiesced that night to say, well, I acknowledge that it's council's meeting, but in reality, it's really not, unless all of the council agrees that he's somehow out of order and then removes him as the chair. But as long as he's the chair, it's his meeting. And we can talk about all day long how Mary likes to, talk about Robert's rules. I bet you if we rolled through here and looked in the sections on what a chair is and what authority they have in Robert's Rules of Order, it's pretty absolute. So when he does hear you, acknowledge you, and then shut you down, he does have the right to do that. Your only other alternative, and I can look it up and we can figure it out later. Because trust me, once I get in office, I'm going to learn even more about that. There's a process to censoring him or anyone if you feel they've done something wrong. All of you need to learn your abilities as a council person. And trust me, when they elect me, you're going to learn. Because again, I saw a lot of stuff going on that night, and we're going to get to that, with the texting and the messages, and you guys just cannot help yourselves. So we're going to go about like the lack of ability to control that meeting after that was just beyond me. I've never seen a meeting, and I've been watching these meetings. Arguably a lot of people don't like to watch them this way, but I like to watch them through Garen's, eyes. Occasionally I don't like to see, I love Tweety Bird, but don't necessarily need to see birdie and deers and things like that. But I like watching the meeting through him, and he takes the time to video it for us. So I'm watching that through him, and I'm just like, wow, like this is really going on right now. They're going to give her, after they told the first guy, the second guy, Jane, everyone along the way, beep, 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 your time's up. And Joel, rightfully, when they voted it, he was like, so I guess that's how it's gonna be. And I felt his frustration in that moment, like, God dang, man, like, look, I don't often side with him or even feel for him, but in that moment, I felt for that man because it was his meeting, and you guys did not want to listen. He laid down the rules. If that were me and you did that, I would have shut that meeting down. I would have been like Negan. I would have been like, listen, I'll shut that down. You don't know. Like, Joel, dude, you had every right. Just snatch it. If you're gonna do it, man. Like, if you're gonna lay down rules, you gotta lay down consequences. So anyway, now let's explore the root cause of their dysfunction. Well, their dysfunction is that they're all picking sides. I mean, I want you guys to understand that. Like, they're all Democrats. Every last one of them. I'm the only Republican running. They're all Democrats, and they still can't get along. The one thing you can count on about Republicans, you may not like us, but typically, publicly, we support each other. I mean, yeah, we may get pissy about each other's policies and politics, and if it comes down to it in a runoff or an election like that, we're going to go after it. But for the most part, once you get us in office, like you see it in the House and the Senate, like ayes, all the Republicans, aye, right? So say what you will, like we don't turn on each other. And so, yeah, we're going to get to the electronic part. And so you look at their rivalries, their ideologies, right? Like already, I mean, again, we can't help but not talk about Baez. I mean, nobody wants to talk about Baez. That's fine. I mentioned you several times, Jane. It's cool. But Baez, as that article pointed out, like no matter what people like, what we want to say, like, do I believe he was holding that office illegally? 100%. And it's not like I didn't tell him consistently all the way up until he voted on those ARPA funds, and even after, and on every city council meeting. So again, you got that scenario, and then you bring in Arroyo, and now he's got a side, and Mary's got a side, and Moon's got a side, and everyone's got a side, right? Except for Dan Nutt. I think Dan Nutt's just like, I hate all of you now. I'm out. I don't blame him. Like, I'd be out too. Like, I know Jane, like, said, God bless him. Like, yeah, right. Like, he tried. Arguably, Garen has some feelings on certain things about witness statements given, which arguably I've heard it and I understand why people get misled. That being said, when it comes to, as I always say to you, Garen, like, we correct certain things and we congratulate others. He has tried to bring some semblance of order to our budgetary process, which is the only thing that I can say was like he did. And listen, we've seen what that looks like. It's insanity. So he don't care anymore. But the rest of them, they've all got their sides. Everyone's got an angle. Everyone's vying to be Jack Bradley. Everyone's vying to be mayor. Everyone's vying to be the next safety service director. Everyone's vying to get that next paycheck. And I just don't care. I don't want the money. I don't need the job. I don't feel the urge to be, powerful, all-knowing. I'm already that in my own right, in my own way, in my own mind, as we all are. Mainly in my own mind. That being said, I want to do it because I'm going to help people. I want to do it, and that's why all of us should be participating in doing it. That's why, as Jane would always say, you guys need to get to those council meetings. If you're not going, I don't want to tell you. And that's the other thing, going back to our local news guy, I want you to look at our Vermilion guy, Joseph. He's out there at his Vermilion council meetings. He's out there asking questions of, this man's actually asking hard-hitting questions of his government instead of just sitting there on the sidelines and then writing fluff pieces. So you guys got to donate to that guy and his newspaper. I'm just saying. That being said, so you got all these people that are making these little like, arguably there's been a lot of what looks like planned stuff going on in that council meeting. I mean, anybody that doesn't believe that what went on that night and Tia's story wasn't planned, like, I just feel like you're kidding yourselves. But so now we roll into we've got Zelina. She gets up and she starts off. She says her little bit and she's spinning her yarn as she does, telling her tale. And then when her timer goes off, then she starts to get a little snarky. Now you guys can argue with me all you want on that, but she was. Come on, Joel. Like, nah. Right? I get it. So now at that point, you're doing exactly what he said not to do at the beginning of the meeting, right? And arguably, this is part of our decorum issues within that building. I've even gotten caught up with under like whispering, dude, honestly, like freedom of speech, yes, we need to sign up and speak. Otherwise, if we're in the audience, maybe we should just kind of shut the hell up. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong on that. But I do know it would save us a lot of grief. But when you get up on that mic to speak and you're on a timer, and I know, right? And everybody is on a timer, and then you get an extra 2 minutes. How does that make everyone else feel? And why 2 minutes? Was it because you get a double dose? What was that random? Like, it is randomly 2 minutes. And so as that article pointed out, like, how do you decide that? I think they need rules for that. They need signups for that. They need, hey, like, here's regular sign up, and then another sign up that says extra, right? Like it did. And that's what that article talked about, like Elmore, right? We'll get to that too. So I think that you can look at it in a couple of different lights. Joanne's got her history of community involvement. She's respected. And if I was going to give anybody an extra couple of minutes, it'd be her. Also, people got dinner to eat. And my long-witted ass understands just as well as anybody else. If everybody else worked to get it within 2 minutes, you can too. Especially if I did. I didn't that night, but I have. Right? I don't get beeped off the mic. You notice that's one thing you've never had me do is get to the end of that mark. For a guy that loves to talk, I never get beep, 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 beep. Right? Not me. Because I know what I want to say, and I get up there, and I'm done, and I'm out. Like, that's the only time. Let's just, you just plan that stuff when you're going to come in there and speak. Don't just, you guys got to acknowledge that if you understand mental health and fears, like when you study like people's phobias, public speaking is right up there with heights, like 1 and 2, right? Like, so public speaking is hard. So I always applaud Jane and others when they get up there and speak. For me, I'm broken. Like, I was a DJ. Like, you give me a mic and I'm like, Sunday, not Saturday, the Dallas Mowing Expo show. You'll see King Mo taking a Texas sod You'll see the Snapper Precision Mowing team as they mow the way through more lawns you've ever seen before. We'll sell you the whole seed, but you'll only need the edge. Patent pending. Only $19.99. But you know what I mean? Like, that's me. I can do that. Other people can't. So, Jane gets emotional when she gets up there. And I applaud that she shares that with you guys. Like, as a therapist and a social worker, I would argue we need more passion like that in our local government. And when I look at the videos that they've been posting on Vermilion Daily about what's going on in their city councils, and then I see what's going on in Sheffield Lake, and I see what's going on in Sheffield Village, and I see what's going on in Elyria, and I see everyone starting to do this, and we're going to get to that spark a little bit later on into this segment, but it's the spark, right? So you look at what happened with Zelina, and then you look at the reactions of the council member in the audience. And so, most cities around the country do allow 3 minutes. And the example that we talked about and I saw in the paper was like the city of Elmore allows 5. And they also talk about like the guy when he wrote the thing, he said like that you should have to say your name and address. And I still disagree with that. Like if you're writing it down, just you have to write it down. Like I don't feel like you should have to say it. I feel like that's an archaic thing. It shouldn't be said on video, but that's just me. So I disagree with the opinion piece there. But as far as when you look at the reactions of everyone, like I could see the defeat in Joel's eyes when Mary stands up and point of order. And I would question if you looked at Robert's rules, if she even had the right to call that vote. She has a right to make a point of order, but I don't necessarily know that you have a right to call a vote on something that's not scheduled to have a vote on for absolutely no reason. Like if you're really looking at Robert's rules, I think you'll find that there needs to be more than just that and just to randomly vote. So what I would suggest moving forward, and I read from that article, go down in that narrative piece, that opinion piece that Frank wrote, and look in there when it talks about like what he believes should be the outcome, right? How to delineate what happens. I know a way. Like I read what he wrote, and I would say, well, yeah, non-residents, other residents have I guess arguably 3 sign-in sheets or 2, 1 split. And so one sign-in sheet on one side, it would be residents. On one side, it's non-residents. And then below that is a special section that says request for longer and then provide reason. Right? So everybody has a right to ask for longer, and then the council as a whole would get that, and the clerk would be able to say, hey, Mr. Knapp's asked for an extra, minute or two. Well, I mean, again, that we're not going back to that. But this is for this. Don't get me started. Don't distract me on stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, like just have it set up. So if you need to ask, because I read the rules after I read that editorial article opinion piece from Frank, and I just said, hey, the rules do state that they have a right to vote. Like they had a right to do what they did. I just don't know that it was done properly. Like I don't know that she had a right to do the motion right then. I feel like it has to be something that's planned. Like the whole council like should have already decided it. I don't know. It just feels like there should be a lot more going on there. But now we think about this though, like why her extra time is significant victory for the rest of us. All right, so they gave her 2 extra minutes. So if you can give her 4 minutes, why can't you give us 3? Just saying. Now, understanding the power of your individual advocacy in local politics, guys, like you guys got to understand the power of your voice. Okay. I started this out and I was soft. I wanted to test everyone's intestinal fortitude for what had to happen. And then I started ramping it up, right? They took my job. They've tried again to take my job. They've called my new work, but I'm in private practice and we're therapists, and they were like, oh, you got stalkers, and hug me, right? And so like they're trying to say that I'm this person that I'm not. What you need to understand is look up like being a puppeteer or a marionette, but look it up in reference to a social worker, in reference to good, not evil. And what we do, a lot of what we do, you'll never realize what we're leading our way to getting done. And honestly, when I look at arguably what I've navigated and created, it's I like it. Like I put some people in office. I made a lot of change, and now what I really see is I see other people willing to pick up that mantle, that spark, and they're doing it in councils and city councils all in this area. And then you see these 2 new newspapers rising, and people who have been staunch advocates for so long see a light at the end of the tunnel. People see other people running for office. It is the spark that starts the fire, that burns it down, that becomes the fiery phoenix, that everything just bursts back out of the ashes and becomes anew, right? This is how we get to where we need to be. It takes breaking eggs to make an omelet. Some people out there found that out the hard way. Some people are learning that now. Some people have understood it all along, and some of us were the chef. So, argue all you want. I took this from a simple issue with my dog at Rockin' on the River, through Chief McCann, through the courts, and I have a list of names and a list of accomplishments. And now I see everybody else doing it, and I love it, because it's not about me, and it's not about even you. It's about all of us. It's about our community. It's about what can we do to better our community. The reason why I ended up running for office is because everyone wanted to say, well, what are you doing? Why don't you run for office then? Okay, I will. I'm going to have people. I agree. Again, like I said, if you didn't catch the beginning, I was talking about her, but I mean, I believe if you're going to give anyone the right to speak, it would be her. But what I'm also saying is that you have a standard now that you've set, and rules are rules, right? Otherwise, we're just monkeys flinging poo at each other at the zoo. 91 or not, her voice is no more important than your voice, Jane, than my voice, than everyone's voice. Right? I do believe, though, that if we're going to give someone extra time, it should be somebody, because if we are going to respect people's experience, then we should respect her experience. And I want to hear what she has to say. But Garen measured the timeout. They went 29 minutes in public comments. Any other night, when nobody wants to get up and speak, right? Yeah, that too. But I mean, well, all of us, you too. They were like, all right, Jane, right? They stop you. You get to the end of your time limit a lot, and they stop you. So why is your voice, Jane, not more important than hers? And her voice is equally important. All our voices are important. That's why 2 minutes, 3 minutes. I mean, constitutionally, I've argued this. They don't have to answer us. They don't have to give us any answers. They don't even have to let us speak. They have chose to let us speak. Everyone wants to talk. I'm the first one to argue constitutionality, but you guys got to understand that those meetings are not public forums. They are semi-public forums, right? They have restrictions. You can't just yell crap out. We can't. It's not vaudeville. They are, regardless, trying to get a job done there. They're trying to run our government into the ground. So you guys, when we're in there yelling at them, it makes their job very difficult. They can't create more potholes. They can't create more debt. They can't, misbalance our budget. They can't fight at each other. They can't call each other names. They can't backstab each other. I mean, you guys are really messing with their ability to do what they like to do. It's kind of messed up. I really feel like, no, come on, Jane, you know that. No, actually, it is not your meeting. It is their meeting, because you elected them as your representative. That's it. We have a right to sit, watch, and or speak. And it is a privilege to be allowed to speak. It's not our meeting. As much as everyone wants to say it's First Amendment protected speech, if you look it up, there's plenty of case law to allude to the fact that Joel has every right to stifle us, to shut that door and lock it, to not let us there. We have a right to be there, but if we start being a disturbance, they have it. It is literally a limited public forum, is what they call it. That is why we need more town halls. Town halls are what you guys want. Town halls are where these people are at a town hall, and it is like vaudeville, right? Like we get people up to ask questions, and they need to answer. That answer process typically comes in if you were emailing them and they were responding, or you were calling them and they were responding. But I can't even get a hold of my current councilman, so I gotta go out and do all the work myself. I did not. It is our right to instruct our reps, but that section you're talking about of the Ohio Constitution, does it say when and where? Does it give instructions on exactly how? There is a lot of interpretation of that thought process. Yes, and that is correct. You can, because committee meetings are not council meetings. Committee meetings are when you're supposed to be able to speak, in my opinion. So when you look at it from that aspect, committee meetings, town halls, going to your being able to speak to your council person if they're not at work or in Akron, being able to just sit down and ask them questions, being able to call them up, being able to actually have a conversation with somebody once in a while. But going to those committee meetings, they're not, well, some of them are and some of them aren't. Some of them are right before a council. And yeah, you are correct. Like, that's the problem, because again, if you work, I don't even know how they figure this out. Like, I'm looking at this job from a standpoint of, if I get elected, I'm a therapist, so mainly I do, online work. So that's easy enough. I'm also raising a kid. I'm also, doing all that I do. And so when I look at what I'm trying to figure out, how they schedule these, you're right, though. Sometimes you have to go back and watch them on video. Not everyone can be there all the time. People have lives, they have things to do. Those of us that are knowledgeable and want to be there, we go there, we participate. But the argument would always be, if you're not out there holding them accountable, then what are you doing other than continuing to vote the same people back into office every year? And for those that would always say, well, keep voting them in and you'll keep getting this. All right, here's an argument from a guy that's running for office as a Republican. Who the hell else is going to put them in office? Like, we don't have anyone else running. If you guys want someone else, you got to elect someone else. You got to elect the new people. And speaking of which, we're going to get to that. I have a possible new independent candidate that she's going to be out there getting her signatures, and I'm really happy to see that. She's running for at-large. But yeah, and so we do have a right to instruct them and do our biddings before the meeting and after the meeting adjourned. That is correct. During that meeting, that's when all of us are bound, them, us, all of us, by a certain level of decorum. Well, that's the question. That, I don't know. I mean, for me, it's simple. If I'm sixth ward council and someone says, "Hey, Aaron, I want you to say this at council meeting," you know what I do? I go, and when they say miscellaneous concerns, yeah, Joseph Johnson at 4251, Smith Street, says he's sick of your, and he said a word that I can't really arguably say here in this council chamber, but it wasn't pretty. And he wants his streets fixed. And he used a couple of expletives more that I really wouldn't repeat here in mixed company. But he said, if you don't fix the streets soon, he's going to take that recomposed material and stick it somewhere that none of us were going to be happy. I don't really think he was threatening, but I could sense the frustration in his voice. Just wanted to let you guys know that. Or, hey, Joe Blow called last week and said, hey, good job. Or Mary Smith called and said, my neighbor's dog's pooping in our front yards. Could we get someone out there? Like, these are the things you do. If you get those concerns from those emails that you get, and again, the emails that these council people never check, then that's what you do. And I do. Town halls should be a must. Like, I believe you've already got Victoria out there doing a semi-town hallish thing, working with the radio station that has me currently blocked because they value First Amendment speech so much, and WBOL. But all I wanted to, I never did anything wrong. They were just mad because they didn't think I backed the blue enough. So yeah, she's doing that, and other people meet. But how many of your other council people do you guys ever talk to? So to Jane's point, well, how do you know that our council even know what we want? Well, how do you know? That's a good question. How do you friggin' know? I don't know. You ask questions, but they get mad because when you ask questions, then they think you're questioning them. Listen, I'm not questioning you. I have no reason to question you. You are nothing more than my government. You are a vessel for my wishes and my will. You are a tool for governments. Like, that's it. I direct you. I tell you what to do. You do what I say. You do what I want. When we come and we ask of you, you shall give, or we shall vote you out. That's the way it works. Everyone wants to look at what I gained out of that election. Well, I don't know. I had 3 signs in my yard and 3 victories. That's what it looks like. Active civic participation, folks. You gotta do your bit. You gotta understand that the Constitution means something. You've gotta go and you've gotta vote, folks. You've gotta go and you've gotta cast that vote. You've gotta actually do it. You can't just sit at home. Everyone's complaining about the roads on my pages and everyone else's pages, but where the hell is, that civic participation when it comes to these meetings? Um, you know, so again, anyway, looking at this whole idea from what happened with Zelina, like we have to look at the potential for how this can react towards, working towards getting us more time, maybe that 3 minutes that we're looking at. And then, understanding that all local residents, all of you are the powerful people out there, Lorain County, Lorain City. It's each one of you and each of your individual wards, respective boroughs, towns, cities, I don't care, whatever you want to call it, neighborhood, block, 3 housing unit, section, apartment complex, whatever you call your family unit, your local people. Like, it's your duty to advocate on their behalf and to make sure we all have a better community. And you can make a difference. Like, for those of you that would be like, well, I met with someone the other day who displayed a lot of the similar qualities. Like, she was like, "Are you like my brother?" Like, honestly, it's like she's like a female version of me, from a different race, and like, but our brains and our thoughts were the same, and then we were just like, no. See, and then people flock to people like that. That's why my inbox is full of people all the time trying to get me information. I'm at this point so overwhelmed with the information and trying to run for office and trying to stay out of everything, trying to throw everybody all over to, from my site to the news sites, Vermilion and Lorain Daily, because they are providing that news that I hope someone would step up and provide. Like, all of this has been an advocacy to bigger and better things. Like, all of this has been, I want this page to die. I want these things to have no point in having an existence, because other people are doing it. Because other people have picked up the torch and they've taken that torch and they've said, this is what I want to do with my life. I want to make my city, my town, my government, my township, my whatever, my, better. I want better roads. I want, cheaper water. I want cheaper sewage. I want electricity rates that I can afford. I want a team that won't move to fucking Burke Park. Oops, sorry. But you know what I mean? Like, that's all people want. They want what they want. These people, they want what they want. They want these simple things. And they're not getting it. And so when they don't get what they want, like, you get restlessness. And it just took a few sparks to start the fire. And now everybody's, getting on board. Now you're seeing that social change. Now you don't necessarily have to go to, very far to see the advocacy taking place in every city across the board. And so understanding all of that is key. Like, that was just that whole meeting was just a train wreck. So, I mean, again, they need to get some rules in place. They need to start addressing what's going on in those meetings, because it is starting to get a little wild west up in there. And I do acknowledge, and I think everyone needs to acknowledge, it's Joel's meeting. And if you don't want it to be Joel's meeting, then you better replace him. And there is an election coming up. So I don't know. I don't think anyone's running against president, are they? So again, if you guys, yep, there you go. So he's automatic. Automatic. Unless an independent steps up and wants to run for president. Unless one of you wants to go out and get 144 to 444 signatures to run for council at large president, or whatever they call it, council president, step up if you're an independent voter and run against him, then he is our next council president. So you better sit back and enjoy the ride for the next 2 years, because he's the guy that's running the show. It's his meeting. No matter what I say or do as 6th Ward Council when I win the election, well, it's still his meeting. I have to follow decorum if it pleases the chair through the chair. Guess who is the chair? Because they don't understand how that stuff works. Why? Shouldn't he just be making clothes? I mean, honestly, just stick to designing stuff. Like, stop. Everybody's got too many personal things involved in this. I go to that meeting and I say what I say, and you know what I think about every one of those people sitting on council? Nothing. None of it's personal. He yelled. He needs to be quiet. Like, it's a government forum. Stick to making clothes. Go make some clothes and be done with it. Like, I don't need to hear from a fashion designer when it comes to my politics. Okay, that's all I got to say about that. So let him come say I'm disrespectful, and I'll blow up the middle finger for him. 0 to give. I'm not even, dude. Look, I respect people's right to have a business and all of that stuff. Like, no, not even. Like, no. Listen, if you think you have an ability, what now? Yeah, it's in the dryer. And yeah, you can. I don't know. Go figure it out. You can go look. If the dryer stopped, then it's done. But that's the point. Like, look, man, like, we need people there. They were all just there to support, Midtown Lorain or Main Street Lorain. And I get it. Main Street Lorain does a lot of great things for Lorain, but can't get to Main Street because of the war zone that you've got to drive through to get there. So I don't really know. Yeah, right. Like, yakety yak, whatever. Like, everyone actually tough in Lorain. I've noticed that they've all got something to say. But that's it. Like, I've seen so many people come and go from my feed that come in to attack me and harass me, and I just don't care. That's the thing, folks. If you understand it from a therapeutic standpoint, no one matters but you. Your light shines onto others. So what you do is what reflects onto others, not what they do. If you let them shit on you, if you let their dirty, dark light shine on you, then you are letting them win. I don't. I'm a beacon, a light at the end of the tunnel. And guess what? Usually a light at the end of the tunnel means I'm also the damn train that's coming. So those that are on the tracks are about to get mowed down. And that's on them. Like, not like I didn't warn them all. I've been warning everybody all along. If you don't notice the shift in the advocacy, then the tone, the change in the tone, the change in the way I'm doing things. Like, yeah, like, you guys just got to realize that all of this has been my plan since the get-go. Like, this all started formulating back when this all started with the chief and I was considering running for mayor. And I realized, well, you can't just start there, so you got to start somewhere. So there was a lot of conversations with that. The ice cream man was like, I'll vote for you. Everyone on my block was like, I'd vote for you. And so then I was like, hey, you can't just start there. So where do you start? Well, unfortunately for them, they gave me a perfect ending because I would have never ran against Ray. And I liked Antonio, but he was never present as much as he wants to say he was. You know, he's still floating around, sixth ward this, sixth ward that. But you know, you're a cop in another town, bro. Like, sorry, I would have run against Antonio. I gave them 3 months to tell them to pick somebody, and they picked who they picked, and so that's who I'm running against. But that's what changed that. If they'd have left Ray in office, I probably would have never ran against him. I would have just waited until I built up enough thing, and I would have ran for at large. This gives me that baby stepping stone to get where I want to get, to kind of figure out how bad it is in there and decide what the next step is. So when people ask me a lot of questions, well, it's hard to tell because I got to go look at the budget and they won't even give me a copy of it. You know, as Garen's been complaining about not getting records, you know, I'm still waiting on copies of the 2024 budget. Like, I can't get stuff either from them. So anyway, that, you know, that takes us to the next section of my my podcast here. I do want to talk a little bit about some transparency, and then we're going to do a little bit of a deeper dive into the role of local journalism. But I just need 1 second, so we're going to take a quick break here, and then I'm gonna be right back. But in the meantime, I'm gonna give you we're gonna do. We are at the 57-minute mark, folks. Rather than turn it off, I'll be right back. All right. I needed to take this one out. She needed to go potty. Okay, now, lay down. Come on. Vinny, no. Sito. Sito. Fermo. All right, folks, that brings us to the second segment of our podcast tonight. So I just want to point out again another issue that occurred. It's a minor one. Someone asked a question about it, but I had heard through some sources that there was a weird investigation done into Mayor Bring, who I don't even know who that is, but he was in Sheffield and Sheffield Lake, and he was the old mayor there before Radif. And there was an investigation that was done. It had something to do with stupid ribs, right? The investigation, again, doesn't matter. This is the point I've been trying to make to everyone. It's about the transparency. You want to talk about transparency, you can't have that conversation without actually having some freaking transparency. So I asked for this report, and as I posted on my page, I get the report back, and it's just completely redacted. And listen, the report in itself, the investigation was the most piss poor excuse for an investigation I've ever seen. I'm not even sure why they were doing an investigation into somebody eating ribs. But whatever. That's how petty things have gotten around here. No guarantee, pun intended. And so this investigation, it just was suggested I look for it. So it had been refused to be given by the county prosecutor for a while, right? And so I like those. And so it's like, all right, let me call and get it. So I sent a message, and lo and behold, they sent it to me in like a week. Amazing how that works, right? Sue them a few times. Eventually, they start giving you stuff without having to play games. And so they give me the report back, and it's all damn redacted. And it's got like the investigator's name redacted. Everything is redacted. I'm like, come on, guys. Like, okay, let's play the F around and find out game again. So I sent him back a message and said, really, this is like, look, it's a page and a quarter. Knowing these people who are public officials and servants, like, shouldn't matter. And so they sent me back this email, and now it's Dan Petticourt's, like, I guess, I don't know, because there's been a couple of different people I spoke with. I know that they had one lady that was working for him, but they had this other one that was responding that was doing some sort of interim thing. And she's like, well, while we respectfully disagree with your assessment of, who can and can't be redacted on this, we'll send it back to Sheffield Lake, the issuing authority, and find out what they have to say. Well, arguably, they weren't the issuing authority because the investigator was the prosecutor's investigator. So the really issuing authority was the prosecutor's office. The prosecutor's office was asked to handle it on behalf of Sheffield Lake because they were a conflict of interest and couldn't investigate their own mayor. So I get the report, and it's nothing, right? Like, whatever it was, if there was something bigger there, they made it go away, and they did so through the report. But since they had denied the report before, when I asked for it again, and they knew they had to give it to me after they denied it to everyone else, they were mad, so they redacted the crap out of it. I'm not even going to bother bringing it up here because it's annoying to try to take stuff off the screen after I share it, but it was bad. And so then they said, we respectfully disagree with you. And I was like, well, respectfully, I don't give a flying, like, whatever, right? At this point, when people ask me why you should trust me over anyone else in this town, when have I been wrong? I'll wait. I mean, that's the thing, folks. Like, I don't speak until I know. So, like, that for sure is, you know. And so I just, section TOCH touche CHE with that little weird squiggly thing on it. But yeah, that's touche. I like being touche. All right, Luna, come on. You're gonna choke yourself. You can't put your head through there. Come on, Vinny. No, Vinny. So anyway, that's the problem, folks. Like, my dog distracted me. And so I get this. I said back to him, I was like, look, respectfully, you can disagree all you want, but there you go. But you're not wrong. You're just not wrong. I mean, not right. Sorry. I'm not wrong. And so they sent it off, and then I get it back like a week later, and no apologies, right? No, we were wrong. Just here you go, unredacted, with the uncharged suspect not listed. Which by law, that's legal, right? So can't list uncharged suspects. Well, here's the kicker, guys. The report says investigation into Mayor Brink, right? It's titled Investigation into Mayor Brink. Everything in it discusses now it's unredacted, right? Everything is unredacted except for the name of the uncharged suspect. Now, there's nobody in the report named Mayor Brink. I don't know Mayor Brink. I don't know his first name. But nowhere in that report did I see the name Mayor Brink. But everywhere they talk about the uncharged suspect, it's blacked out. Now, logically, I would think that maybe, just maybe, that the blacked out part's Mayor Brink. And arguably, you can say he's an uncharged suspect. That's true. But this goes back to like when police officers are saying that they don't want their information released because they're the victim when they got something happened, using that one loophole. Like, it's still a public official, folks. And you can call it a criminal investigation, but if it's malfeasance in office, then you have no right to hide that from me. Zero right to hide that from the people. And that's the kind of stupidity that I've been dealing with since day freaking one. Right? Like, since day one. Morons like Chief James McCann. I have never been like more attacked by someone making so much money in my life. Like, I gotta say that. Like, that man makes so much money. And so this a-hole like had to go and piss in the wrong guy's Cheerios. That's all this is. Let's go back 4 years, 3 years, whatever it was, to that fateful day when I sent that email to him. And I bet he wishes he had not responded like a total douche nozzle, right? But hey, you do you, James, right? You do you. Now everyone wants to come in, like his sister is like, oh, but you're mean to my family. And no, I'm not. Like, you reap what you sow. Don't be mad at me. I don't know any of you. I didn't know any of you, right? Never knew a single one of you. When I went out to meet my treasure, no one believed me. Everyone's scared to meet with me. Everyone's like, oh, like they don't know. Are you a Fed? Are you not? I don't know. Am I a Fed? Am I not? I can tell you I was in the Army. I can tell you I went to Ohio State. I can tell you I graduated in 22. I can tell you I was in Columbus. I can tell you a lot of people talked to me while I was in Columbus. I can tell you I know people in Columbus. I am fed up. I like that. I like puns. I'm not a Fed, but I'm fed up. Or maybe I am. So anyway, they send me this bullshit redaction, and I'm like, all right, fine. So I get the redaction, and then they send me the new one that's completely unredacted with just one name. And again, no apologies, but was I right? Yeah. Was I right about the Dan Petticourt stupid video? Yeah, even though it's not what I wanted. And everyone wants to be mad about that, but dude, the bailiff took me to the basement of the jail or of the courthouse, and I did not know there was a jail down there. No one that I've spoken to knew there was a jail down there, but he made a freaking joke about it. You took a disabled veteran with PTSD in an elevator, down in an elevator to a room he was not familiar with while you were escorting him out of a building, and you were so lucky that the outcome was what it was. You were walking behind me. And see, everyone wants to know what I thought the video had. I thought the video had like me walking out of the elevator with, Archaeosaurus Rex behind me, trying to touch me and following me along the side of the wall. And he's coming up behind me and he's following me, and I don't like to be followed. So how about you just step your dumb ass back off? But he wouldn't. And so then the guy that I had seen 1,000 times before going in and out of that court, the handlebar mustache sheriff, who's now gone, right? He's gone. He doesn't work at the court anymore. They rotated all those people that were there out. And so he was there and he says, we've met. I like you. We've always had a good relationship, but I need you to step out and wait. That was the whole thing. I did it upstairs and I did it downstairs. I didn't realize they didn't have cameras anywhere in the courthouse. Talk about security issues. That courthouse is totally unsecure. There's 0 cameras in that building. You got a couple downstairs. You got a couple in the courtrooms. But for the most part, every floor where there's a court lobby or anything, there's just no cameras. They don't give 2 craps about the public, right? And until I started throwing a fit about it, they were letting employees go through the left side of the building without even really scanning them. I remember going through with probation officers, setting all my stuff right up on the side, setting off the machine, going through and grabbing my stuff and walking through. You guys all say I'm crazy, right? Like McCann said, I was a loose cannon, that I was unhinged. You let a crazy unhinged guy walk into the courthouse unchecked so many times, it's not even funny. You gave me complete access to the judges, to everyone. People I badge checked in Tim Weitzel were later trying to fire me. And he's a master level clinician. Everyone wants to ignore the fact that they railroaded the shit out of me. That they involved everyone. You want to talk about naming names? Let's talk about the fact that I was working for Crossroads. So I'm working for Matthew Cox, the head of the probation guy in Crossroads, with probation officers. I'm going to all these court functions. I'm on their Christmas card for probations. I meet with Sherry Glass, who was the judge on my custody case. I meet with Judge Janik. I meet with Lisa Swinsky. All these people. I meet all these people that I've never met before in my life, right? And the only thing Judge Glass knows about me is the time that I was in her court for my custody case. And that wasn't pretty either. And so at one point during our knowing each other later, we're still Facebook friends. Like, she said, your daughter's in the right place. I know that. You guys screwed up when you agreed with the Idaho court. And once it went to Utah, everything changed. And that's what happened. So then, I roll in, I'm part of this group, and I also become a guardian ad litem. Now, say what you will. If you think I'm stupid, I'm not. Like, it's amazing that I never said I was an officer of the court, even though I knew I was, because by law, you're an officer of the court. If you know the court's laws, you're bound to follow them. That's officer of the court, not court officer. But I knew guardian ad litems were. I already cut and pasted that section out of the Lorain court's website. So I already knew before James ever did this. Again, I'm 5 steps ahead of these people. I'm playing chess while they're playing like checkers, and they're missing half of the checkers. Like, it's ridiculous how easy they have been to manipulate since day one. So James goes and does everything that I think he's going to do. Right now, mind you, I'm a disabled vet. Like, I don't have to work. And so I was rolling along. I was listening to a podcast. It said sometimes it takes someone giving up their livelihood or their job to make a better stance, like to change for the better good. And I was leaving Crossroads that day, headed towards the jail, going to turn right. I remember the day I was turning right on, I think it was North Ridgeville Road or Murray Ridge Road by the jail there. And I'm listening to this. And then the next day, I'm at Renounce Denounce. And I went, right? Mind you, understand this. Like, I was the only person that looked like this that they ever let in Renounce Denounce. And I was voted in by my clients. So I went in there when probation officers weren't allowed in there. I was there connect, right? Like, I was the only insight into that world. And they started calling me an expert. And so did the courts. I'll admit I got a little big head. Like, first couple times in court, they're like, well, let's get the expert to speak, right? And I was like, yeah, let's get that guy up here. And they kept looking at me. And I was like, oh, I got you, my bad. So you're under my club, blah, blah, blah. Right? And I'll never talk about my client or my time in the court because that's illegal. But so I meet all these people. I know all these things. And then James comes to Colin, right? Because he's used to getting what he wants. And he goes to the judges and he tells them that I said all this stuff. So they concoct this story on how to get rid of me. And I'm just going to say that, there's another person out there, my little twin that I'm helping with, her campaign stuff, who also had a similar problem with the GAL's office and the particular individuals within it and their use of information they shouldn't be using and sharing information they shouldn't be sharing. But anyway, like they went through this process, they were getting rid of me, and outside renounce denounce, not knowing who I was, Judge Glass is talking about it to me and basically tells me, "Don't, you're going to choke yourself." That I am getting fired without realizing it's me. I mean, again, we're just sitting there telling me, it's like, "Oh, so it's me that's getting fired." And she's like, "Oh, gotta go." And so I get back to the office, and sure enough, I got sent home. Now, I'd been told if I'd have just stopped, they would have let me keep my job. If I'd have just stopped making those complaints, they would have let me keep my job. If I'd have just knuckled under and done what they said, they'd have let me keep my job. I mean, come on, Aaron. Why can't you just do what you're told? Well, dude, you gave a social worker, graduated in 2018, first job right out of college, right? Just doing it, hammering it, working in the jobs that only those people work in. Would have probably stayed there if you'd given me the opportunity. Would have worked with these people for forever. But no, you had to crap on me and come at me. And so I was like, "You're gonna give me an opportunity to just martyr myself?" So I did. And I moved on. But I never forgot. And that's the thing, is I have all the evidence. And again, you guys see what I bring up all the time. If you don't think I don't have more evidence, I mean, I have everything James ever put out to date. To date, folks. Chief of Police McCann, who makes, ungodly $230-something thousand a year, is a liar. He is a liar because he says that he never sent the text messages to Tim Weitzel. I have the emails and the text message where he lied. Integrity matters, folks. James McCann lied. He can say whatever else he wants. He didn't think the courts would give him up. And the courts gave him up because I had the courts by them as well. Because no matter what they want to say, in the end, he went after my license and they all lost and they all waited, right? The courts, everyone were holding their breath, praying to God the social worker board was going to side with James. But there was no freaking way that a board of social workers would side with that dude. They called me up and they were like, "Hey, what'd you do to piss the chief of police off so bad that he figured out not only that we had a board, but that he took the time to look us up, call us, then took the time to send an email and a complaint to us about you." Like, in all of our history of being social workers, like, we haven't seen that happen. Surprise! Like, "How long you been a social worker?" Like, they were like, "Well, he said you signed your name LSW. Aren't you an LSW?" "Yeah." "So what's the problem?" "I don't know. We said you said you're an officer of the court." "Yeah, I'm a guardian ad litem. Their own website says it." "Huh, all right." So again, got dismissed. Got my unemployment because I was deemed by the state to be a whistleblower. Because again, we're still talking about this to date. Lorain Police still has the Hildress information online. And I've talked about this 1,000 times. Still waiting on Lorain City Schools and the other guy that makes $190,000 a year, and Mr. Graham, to get back to me and let me know if you're going to keep putting children's information on. My daughter's on this campaign to let her go to Lorain High. Why the hell would I let her go to a high school that doesn't value privacy of children? They still have allowed Lorain Police to put this information of the Hildress on for 3 years or whatever it's been. Why not take it down now? What, a misdemeanor obstruction charge was so important to you, James and crew? Like, no matter what, Lieutenant Morris, Captain Morris, if you say you're a police officer and you're running the PR department down there, why don't you make it happen and take that off the internet? Because it's wrong, people. You folks are wrong. You don't put juvenile information online while you're redacting Mayor Bring's report like it's something serious. Give me a break, you two-faced. That's not even funny. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. So here we are. Rue of the day. You made your bed, now you get to lie in it. And that's where we look at this. Like, transparency is under a threat right now. We look at the impact these reduction issues have on the public trust and the accountability. It's no different now than it was then. This is just one big, long carry-along on everything I've been advocating for. This is my opus. This has been the magical thing that I dreamed up in my ADHD brain. I said 3 years ago, all right, well, in social work, they say you got to pick something, right? An ethical, like, you have to find something. And as a soldier, you got to find a mission. Well, I made Lorain my mission. I'm not done yet, but boy, I'm working hard. We're going to get that out there. We're going to get it to the point where they just send you everything you want without having to have me email them. Like, I'm avoiding emailing all those people you want me to email, Garen, because I know what's going to happen the second I email them. I'm going to get it. And that's ridiculous that it has to be me. So, in the end, we need to start using local officials to address the root causes of these problems, folks. Like, instead of just emailing your city council, or if you want, just type in city council group, Garen will put the email in the chat, like, email these people. But the other thing you can do is you need to just go to these meetings and talk to them. You need to actually talk to, you need to go and you need to just tell them, like, hey, this is what I want. This is what I, Joe Citizen, want. And that doesn't mean going and signing up at the meetings. It means telling them beforehand, making sure they are representing you, making sure they have your best interest at heart, making sure that they're not getting old and senile, making sure they have their facilities, make your faculties, making sure that people that you're electing in have your best interests at heart. Because in the end, you want to talk about these people like they're gods. In the end, Joel's just a car salesman. In the end, Miss Moon's just a para. In the end, we all have day jobs, right? That's what government was always meant to be. Citizen government. Citizens, farmers, cobblers, hat makers, ship sail makers, farmer. Everyone could be a government official because we were a government for the people, by the people. You guys need to remember that. Yeah. But I mean, like, they don't pay attention to those emails unless they're in council and they're not supposed to. And so, bottom line is we need a greater transparency, a more consistent redaction process, and we need to understand the implications when the court is telling people no. You're going to write me, we respectfully disagree. Well, you're our county. So when you send me emails that say you respectfully disagree, everyone is respectfully and disrespectfully disagreed with me, from Jeff Friedel to Dave Moore to JD Tomlinson to the sheriff's department to the Lorain Police Department to the city council to the courts to the lawyer for the courts, to everyone along the way has respectfully disagreed with me, and respectfully, other than a couple of times when I was wrong only because you wouldn't give me the right info, like with the last hit for the courts in the when I went to the court of claims to try to get that from the domestic court, and I lost because then I didn't state the right claimant. We figured that out, and you guys gave me that, and that's why I ended up going to the other one. So in the end, I won that. I just needed you to help me eliminate some stuff to get to the right answer. I won against the city of Lorain. I got the videos. I got the stupid policy that Sanford, got. I have copies of the stupid bogus investigation that Ray Carrion did into Chief McCann. Again, how can the guy that was advocating for me as my city representative then turn around as safety service director and be the guy that's investigating James? Can't do it that way, folks. But that was what they wanted me to accept. And then the county prosecutor made up some excuse on why they couldn't do it with me. I don't care anymore. Like, all these people want to play games. Guess what? I haven't been wrong yet, and I'm not about to start. So watch me win this election. I already see, the writing on the wall, and I think you guys do too. You know, who better to fill the job than the one that doesn't necessarily want it, but the city needs me to do it because in the grand scheme, you're gonna stop doing that. Don't put your head in there, please. She keeps trying to put her head in between my seat thing here, and like I don't mind, but it's like she chokes herself a little bit when she does that. Like so we're gonna end up, we're gonna end up needing to get really better into the access for public records. And so, that brings us into the deep dive onto this editorial piece that was put out recently, by the Lorain Daily. I really like what this Frank guy's writing. I discussed a little bit of it in the earlier portion of the podcast. The main thing I liked about it is it's showing somebody else thinking about, how these things look in the public eye. And that's something that I think that all of us as government need to start understanding, is that the citizens are watching the government. And I'm going to say I as well, because I plan on winning. So, I mean, I as the government will have a different role than I as the advocate. There'll be no more of these late night podcasts where Aaron's getting on talking about this stuff. If anything, I'll just be coming on and doing a town hall for all of you guys to come in the 6th Ward and talk to me, because God knows they're probably not going to let me on the WBOL feeds to do that. Hey, lay down. Let him on. So that's what this will become. But everything evolves. All of us should evolve. All of us should be better than we were yesterday. That's it. I don't judge myself by who you are or who someone else is. I just try to be a better human than I was yesterday. And like most, I often fail. None of us are perfect. And if you think you are, then I got a card for you. So, when you look at those editorials and you see what they're writing, you see that people are finally starting to look at the laws. I mean, there's a lot to be said about that. I still wonder about the First Amendment rights of people, but I understand those limited public forums. That's solid. Like, that's established. So he's right there. And I like what he's selling, and I like what a lot of these other people are selling. And so I'm going to keep reading these articles. I'm going to keep looking at these pieces. And it's these kind of things that make me feel like I can do less. I can focus more on the podcast and on the election. And maybe I don't have to post as much. I don't have to post as much local news. I don't have to go through Newsmax and find every little story that pertains to Lorain and post it, because the Chronicle won't. Because you've got Lorain Daily that's going to do it for you. Again, this is the goal. You build the infrastructure up. You build up the pieces to fix things. Part of the fixing is going to be local news. It's going to be knowledge. It's going to be, maybe some of you guys should volunteer to write a column for them, or maybe someone could do like a community corner where you put all the stuff in, or maybe the Second Harvest Food Bank could get in there and start doing stuff. So, I mean, again, there's plenty of openings for us to utilize these local media opportunities on Facebook and beyond, to work for us. That being said, you just got to understand the importance of local journalism. It holds a vital role to, holding people in office accountable, myself included, once I win, and discussing, understanding those challenges that face the local journalism in a digital age. That's why it's so important that you actually support these guys, that, you go to your Patreon, that you give them, $5 or whatever, you subscribe to their newspaper. Local businesses need to go and take out ads. Like, people are looking at this stuff, right? I see their posts are getting a lot of hits. Those fast tracking editorials that they're writing, people are drawn to read stuff like that, right? It's like a soap opera talking about our government. And then on top of that, now you're going to have people looking at their pages, so they're going to be looking at your ads, right? So as long as these people are writing these things, posting these editorials that are sparking community activism, I feel like the business people of Lorain who say support local, should look at these news media organizations and support local. And while I see what the Chronicle is doing, they're talking about cutting services, while these other online venues are giving you daily stories, and they're not even charging you. So yeah, go kick them some money, folks. Like, their Patreon's on there. I've been sharing it on my Facebook page. Take care of it. Take care of our local people, because understanding that, information is power. Understanding the connection between an informed citizen base and an effective government is key. And the only way you can be informed is with, by educated news media, by people who are willing to give you both sides of the story, who aren't gonna, give you just one version, one candy coated version of what it looks like, that are gonna ask the hard hitting questions, like they're doing with these two other places, like Lorain and Vermilion Daily. I feel like they're really asking those questions that we as the population want asked and answered. And so understanding the emphasis between, and the connection between informed citizens and effective governance is so important for all of us. And understanding the dangers of misinformation and the importance of reliable sources. We can all understand, like, in this world of digital resources, that people often get their sources wrong. I get mad at a lot of people. I'm always like, cite your sources, cite your sources. Like, I guarantee you, if I'm giving you information, I've gone and looked up sources. So in this digital age of, anything can look real, anything can be a deep fake, anyone can say or do anything. You need to check your facts, check your sources, back it up with your own opinion. Don't just take someone's word for it, right? You need to go do your own research, unless it's me, because I'm always right. But anyway, I digress. Um, and so, wow. All right. That brings us to the next, understanding that misinformation is bad. You need to understand that having reliable sources of information is important. I do feel like so far everything I've seen as of Vermilion and Lorain Daily is that they are consistent, they are driven, they are giving both sides of the story, and they because some of the stories they write, like, I'm like, I don't like those people. Like, they covered a certain group of people that I won't mention, but that I don't see eye to eye with, but they did it because they are part of the community. And that's what you do when you're news. You don't take sides, you know, regardless of what you want to think about what this guy's writing in the paper. Like, yeah, it feels like he's maybe taking some sides here and there, but it feels like he's taking the people's side, right? Like, when he writes these things. And when I see Joseph writing his stories, I feel the passion behind his stories. And so, understanding that we need that is important. All right. I got one last, I got one last section here to do, and then we're gonna close it up. But I'm gonna really quick take a quick restroom break, and then we'll come back and finish up the last 30 minutes or so of the podcast. And so, all right, no, we're gonna do. Oh wait, we can't do that. If I play too much music that is copyrighted, it'll get blocked. So we're not gonna do that. We're just gonna do um no copyright. So give me 1 second. I'll be right back, and we're gonna finish this up. All right, stop. Welcome back to the last half of our podcast there, folks. Or welcome me back, I guess. No, sweetie. I know. Come on. Lay down. All right. Where were we? So, we're going to get down to our last part here. First off, I want to do a little bit of a candidate deep dive here, or a candidate spotlight. So, I'm not going to announce her yet, but I know somebody else already did sort of announce her. I'm just going to say her name's Nikki, and she is running for. Come on. All right. You got to lay down, sweetie. Lay down. She's running for at large. She's going to be collecting her signatures right now, and she's running for independent at large. I back her candidacy. I gave her a bunch of information, met with her the other night. She's tied in with a lot of different people in the community. I know that she has the support of several people. I'm not going to name them because it's not my place to name them. But I will say that I like her. I met with her. I'm happy that she's running. I'm encouraged her to run. She's the one I was discussing with on the page. And again, I'm going to give her the opportunity to announce everything she wants to do candidacy-wise and announce that on her own. But I support her run as an independent. I think she's a breath of fresh air. And I think she's, somebody we need. And so she's going to be coming out and declaring her candidacy soon. If you see her out on the streets, her name's Nikki, and she's going to be asking for your signatures. So if you see her on the streets and she asks you for a signature and you're a registered voter, because she's an independent, I believe she can take all your signatures. She needs 144 signatures. We'll have another one running for at large. So if you see her out there, her name's Nikki, and she's going to be running around with a gray clipboard box that I had, that I passed on to her because it served me well in getting my signatures. And so, give her a hand, help her out, sign her petition, because I think we need as many people running as possible. As I pointed out, you guys, we just don't have enough people running. Everyone says, everyone talks big until it comes time to get there. Over in Sheffield, we got people that couldn't even make it into office because they were in office and they couldn't figure out how to write their own stupid, get their own candidate signatures. So I did two separate, layouts, for her. I did a bunch of stuff that just sort of laid out candidacy and the steps and the basic steps, and, told her how the alpha list works and all these things. And, her excitement and exuberance is amazing. And I'm happy to see it. And I'm happy to see it in her, and I'm happy to see it in others. I see other first-time people running. I see other people running. I love that Kyrese is running. We're the two Republicans running. So, yeah, I got Kyrese's back. And I want to see change. I want to see something that's different. And, that I don't know, to be honest. I mean, I'll tell you this much, but I think, 40s and 50s probably. I mean, for her, I feel like Nikki is, I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to guess a woman's age. I'm just going to say Nikki is probably a beautiful, ripe 21 years old and will always be 21 years old. But no, yeah, I think it's a fairly younger group of individuals. I mean, I like to think of myself as reasonably, still young enough, old enough to know better, still young enough to still do stupid stuff on occasion. Yeah, right, Karen, you're 39. I'm 39. Shit, Jane's 22. But that's the idea, is that we have new people with new ideas. Can't do any worse. I mean, you can't do any worse than the bankrupt situation we're just about in right now. Like, we're about as close to Chapter 9 as it gets, folks. And you just let a council person sit on council for an entire year and vote on crap, including ARPA funds. Like, what the hell? But hey, what do I know, right? So you need to understand that, when it comes to this stuff, that we need to challenge the status quo, right? And we need to understand that we need to have different backgrounds, platforms, and impact people, right? Like, what Nikki brings to the table is not what I bring to the table. What I bring to the table is not what Harry Williamson brings to the table. What Harry brings to the table is not what, Kyrese brings to the table. Granted, we're all running for different offices and whatnot, but we all bring our own collective ideas and spirit to this government. And all of us are something different. say what you will about my opponent. He was part of what brought us where we're at. Right? Like I support his recovery 100% as I would anyone's. But 5 years ago, when council talks about why our roads are the way they are, when they talk about why are things the way they are, right? What do they always say? Well, it's been years of mismanagement. It's been years, the previous council. Well, I mean, arguably, I found out recently per that article how long Joel's been in office. Jesus. And some of these others, granted, you know, they casually mention it. Like, well, yeah, you know, we decided this. Yeah. I looked up all the laws of the crap you decided during COVID. They got stupid with that ARPA money, is what happened. They saw golden opportunities and they got stupid. And they made a lot of stupid decisions. And now the piper is coming to pay. Right? That's what they were talking about in that meeting, too. Like, just remember, you know, oh, thank you, Mr. Thornsbury, for printing this stuff out. Maybe you guys should have been printing that shit out, like, I don't know, a year ago, before it got to the point where you're at the constituent point of your budget. And before you had to make a budgetary decision after, again, arguably, Antonio voted illegally on your budget to get it to where it was at. Then you brought Arroyo in, and Arroyo, well, I mean, again, so far, I like what Arroyo's doing, to be honest. Like, he voted no on the budget. He voted no on a lot of things, which is what Antonio promised he would do, showing that he's got restraint, right? Showing that he's like, all right, whatever. But then he rolls in and starts doing stuff underneath the calendar and what looks like passing notes to people. And that just, yeah, anyway, like a bunch of kids in council. So, you know, it's just understanding that we got to challenge the status quo and we need new people. We need to analyze the potential for these new candidates to disrupt the established political order. And that's the problem. We have an established political order in Lorain County, Lorain, Elyria, all these areas, right? Everybody knows everybody. I'm going to get to that at the end. Everybody knows everybody. It's like an incestuous bunch of nastiness, right? Like, it's like just, you guys all know these people. I can name off the names, right, that people expect me to know. Come on, sweetie. No, you're going to choke yourself. Stop. I don't want your head in there. Yeah. You know, I can name the names off, and I'm not gonna, but I could, and everyone seems to know them, right? And that's the problem. That's the problem. I started looking at the law and the rules, and I'm bored. Arguably. So I saw all the stuff, and I was like, whew. Well, James did me wrong, and arguably by proxy the city, and by proxy the county, and everybody screwed me over with no care in the world for me. And why should they? I was nobody. They didn't know if I'd been sent here by an agency with 3 letters, recruited fresh out of college after I got my college degree and got my LSW. They don't know whether or not, you know, anyone spoke to me about randomly coming to Lorain. They're like, hey, well, you live in Lorain, right? Like, unusually so. Yes, I do. Didn't, you know, you buy a house there recently? That's like, you're going there? Because everyone, when I said I was leaving Columbus to go to Lorain, they're like, why? Right? Like, everyone in Columbus that goes to OSU typically stays. It's hard to find an OSU grad around Lorain. Everyone's Cleveland, right? And I never had this kind of pride or feelings until, you know, that happened. But, you know, OSU, I have one cord up there, that one that's up here. So this cord right here is what I used to wear in my uniform. It's the French Forget, and it's a unit insignia that we got to wear. And it's like the blue, you know, infantry cord, only not as cool. Because, you know, even as a tanker, I know that the infantry cord's badass. But OSU also gave me this as a veteran who graduated. And like, as doing so in the military tradition of things, they enlisted my heart. And so I'm not saying I was, I'm not saying I wasn't, sweetie stuff. I'm just saying that, I've accomplished a lot in my short time here. And, arguably, a lot of people have been looking at my LinkedIn lately. A lot of people have been trying to figure things out. A lot of people are questioning who, what, why, where, when. Just understand this. Whatever I do, whatever I've done, whatever I've been asked to do has been on behalf of my country and my state. And I, as always, will serve all of them honorably, ethically, and like I do always, and always will. Say what you will about me, but I'm foolishly in love with my country, foolishly in love with America, no matter right, wrong, or otherwise. As Jane, I see fighting all the time over the Trump stuff. I'm like, look, I'm a Republican. Do I agree with everything he does? No. But like Jane would say, I do see the validity of, shaking things up, right? Hostages get returned. People start doing shit the right way. People start to get a little nervous when you have an unknown. And that's the problem with everything. It's like, I'm an unknown. Nikki's an unknown. Harry's an unknown. We got a lot of unknowns running for council. Vote for the unknown, folks. That's all I can say. Even if you don't vote for me, vote for Harry and Nikki. Like, just upset the balance. Upset the balance. Like, give them a reason to fear the people, and then they'll have a reason to listen to the people. And if you have a reason to listen to the people, you should. I mean, dude, Carter, like, Moon. I mean, dude, how do you not know what you're bringing into the school? You brought an alcoholic beverage into the school. I mean, I didn't want to make the inappropriate joke, but online, in person, but I'll make it here. So that guy recently got popped like for his 10th OVI, and I was like, he should run for council. People ask me what qualifications do you have. I was like, well, in my past, I did have one. Like, so that should make me like qualified, right? If you got one OVI, you're good. If you got 3, you're gravy. So that's what I try to tell people. Like, look, man, like, you don't just challenge the status quo. Consider the implications of, of the changing political landscape that we have. Consider understanding that fresh perspectives and ideas matter. Consider that, this is a wave of red. And so what scares them is that if the wave of red won, and in the grand scheme of things, let's be honest, is city council really Republican or Democrat? No. They act like they are, but they're not. They're city council. Each one of them is for themselves or for their ward if they're smart. For me, it's all about 6th Ward. I mean, everyone arguably will come into my feed when I'm talking in my other political feeds and be like, what about Tower? What about this street? What about that street? What about those streets? As 6th Ward, I don't care about those streets. That's the thing everyone needs to start really understanding. As the ward representative, I don't represent Tower Boulevard to my knowledge, right? Pretty sure that's somebody else. So I'm not going to advocate for somebody else's friggin' streets. My streets are getting filled. My streets are the ones that I'm on the news advocating for. People go, why is it just Southside you're advocating for? I don't know, because I'm trying to be the Southside's representative. I'm not trying to be, what Nikki's going to run for at large. Like, I feel like that was too big of a role for me to take on in the beginning. I wanted to get the lay of the land for a fresh face. For someone like Nikki, for somebody that has a lay of the land, that knows the people, that has the experience, that knows the names, they can roll into an at-large position and be comfortable. For me, 6th Ward, it's a nice, comfortable start. And I get to learn. And that's the whole point, though, is that like, Tower's not. So I can't advocate for streets that aren't mine. I mean, I can, and I do. And arguably, I told everyone, like, there's opinions coming out on that. I've been reassured by, Joseph and others at the news that they are going to address other streets, like not just, because I get it. I brought a lot of attention to Southside, but Southside is the gateway to Lorain. Say what you want. Nobody's driving down to the next exit, okay? Everyone's getting off at the Lorain Elyria exit. If you're going to the next exit, it's because you're going to Overland Drive and you're going to that area where Amherst is at. If you're coming into Lorain, you're coming in through Elyria. And that's my area. And I have plans. We're going to get that shit squared away. So say what you want, but I'm trying to represent the 6th Ward. I will help out. My job is to vote on everything for the city. But that's why it's a collective effort. That's also why you have at-larges. At-larges represent all of us. So be careful who you represent, elect to represent you in at-large. Like, my only job is 6th Ward. At-large is supposed to concern themselves with every ward. So if ever I run for at-large at that point, guess what? Then I will know my ward by the back of my hand. And at that point, I will have started to learn every ward of this city to where I know that map like the back of my hand. And once I memorize it, that's it. So you give me time and I'll have this down. It won't take me long at all. But for the others, they already know, or they have their ideas at their platforms. They're the ones that you need to be putting into at-large. They're the ones you need to be putting in, considering for a mayor run. They're the ones that you need to consider fresh blood, new blood, different, other than, not the same. How about, Mary likes to tout the amount of women we have. Well, we need more people that are equally representative of the population of Lorain. Maybe we have, I mean, we can't dictate that, though. It's wherever people vote. It doesn't matter how many women, how many Puerto Ricans, how many white people, how many Hispanics, Mexicans, Russians, South Africans, Polynesians. It doesn't matter, because in the end, government is not ruled by DEI. Government is not ruled by who's deciding, what color goes where. Government's ruled by the popular vote. And so in Lorain, you vote for those people. So if you keep voting for them, as a lot of people like to say on Facebook, you get what you get. But arguably, as I said earlier, if all you're getting is one candidate, who else are you going to vote for? 9 times out of 10, every election, arguably half of Lorain is uncontested. Judges, law directors, mayors, uncontested. That's why occasionally you get someone in and they're like, yeah, we're going to vote for a Radif because he's not a bring. For no other reason than that, right? Regardless of what he does, regardless of where he goes, like, he's just not that guy. And we're already mad at that guy. And that's the thing. Like, we'll find reasons to be mad at everyone, but the general population just wants those safe roads to ride on. They just want that safety feeling in their towns and their cities and their townships. And you guys have failed. I don't feel that. I feel like if I have to go out of my way to pay this much attention to my government, if you drew my attention, I have ADHD. Like, you got my focus on you, you got to be really screwing up. That's all I'm going to say. Like, and again, if you want to blame anyone, blame James McCann. Go back to him. He's the only thing that poked the bear. I was in hibernation. I was working. I was oblivious. I was making some decent money. I was working a lot of hours. Now I'm making way more money and I'm working way less hours. So nothing else. Thanks, James. Appreciate that. Like, you taught me that working for the government, working for the city, trying to help out my community wasn't a good call, right? Like, you taught me that private practice where I can make good money is where I should be, because that's the only place that you can't attack my job. If I try to help my city or my county or my government or my state out, James McCann, chief of police, will make sure that I go down, right? That man, as Sherry Glass would say, that man wants to blame everyone for his problems but himself. Isn't that right, Sherry? That man. Remember that conversation? Lorain Police Department was right across the street. We were right outside Reno's Dino's at LCCCCCCCCC, the outreach center, right? That little place where Reno's Dino's is held. That man. That was from a judge's mouth. That man wants to blame everyone but himself for his own problems. What's hearsay? Secondhand. I mean, I heard it from her mouth to my ears. So, I mean, technically, I don't know If it hearsay, because I'm hearing her say it, but but that's what I've been faced with these people. This is the levels that they'll go. Right? Even though they know that there's a problem, they won't fix it. And they'll continue to stop, sweetie. Okay? I get it, but no, not right now. So, anyway, we start looking at changing the status quo. We get voter engagement. We want to encourage, everyone to pay. I want to encourage everyone to pay close attention to this upcoming election, right? You guys got to be involved. I don't care whether you're voting for me. I go back to that movie, Brewster's Millions, where he told everyone none of the above. Soprano said, no, wait, you don't want to win? It's like, no, I don't want to win, but I don't want these guys to win either. He's like, I'm not qualified. And if I'm not qualified, they're not qualified. And so he was trying to get everyone unelected. But I mean, awareness is key, folks. Check out the other people running. Check out the platforms. Go to my candidates page. I don't know what he has on there, but check out and see what he's running on. Does his plan look better than mine? And if it does, maybe you should vote for him. But if you like what I'm selling, if you like the plan that I'm bringing, if you like my proactive nature as opposed to reactive, if you want a councilman that's out in the pothole as opposed to going, well, the weather and the rain and that's just the way the streets are, and they just get that way. Well, yeah, they got that way because 5 years ago when you were in office, you didn't prioritize the south side streets, right? So imagine if 5 years ago, council. Well, let's go back 7. So 7 years ago, when you're in the midst of your council run back then, what happened to Southside streets? Imagine if those streets got resurfaced, sealed, and had maintenance programs set in place back then, before Ray took over. Imagine if Ray had done that. Imagine if Antonio had done that. And now we're right back to the guy that was there right before all of them. So, again, folks, you talk about, well, we keep voting for him, but you guys got to step up and run for office. It's high time that some of you started taking your civic responsibility serious. A lot of you go online and you talk a lot of crap about a lot of stuff, but you don't really put it out there and do the right thing and put your money where your mouth is. So I merely suggested to her that she run, and boom, she's running. Well, it wasn't just me, but others. But I mean, I like that. I'm already running, so all you guys got to do Garen's an independent. If he had time and a second lung, he could run. There's nothing stopping you from running, Jane. If you're not registered as a Democrat, you can still get 144 signatures, and you could run for council at large. It's all you need. You just need to go down there and get 144 signatures, pay $45. You can be council at large, Jane Morales. Nothing stopping you. Again, Garen, I get it. Saying, we all have to step up. We have to make these people understand. If they're not going to do it, then we will get up and do it. Because right now, what they feel like, and they'll say, well, no one else is willing to do it. And they're right. No one else has been willing to do it. No one else is willing to step up and take the blame. When they get mad, and when I'm over there, when I was finally just gave up kind of looking over there a lot on that other page, but when they would get so mad at oh, well, this, that, and the other, look, man, you're in government. This is what you're signed up for. They're going to blame you for the shit that goes on. You better make sure that you get the ground stuff taken care of. Nothing else. The people of Lorain are not a very mobile population. And if they have cars, they value them. And if they ride motorcycles, they value them. And they don't want to be left out in the cold like this. They want to make sure that they have what they need. And so, when roads aren't being met, those are basic needs, folks. Those are basic needs. And so when they're not being met, the people aren't going to be happy. We talk about bringing in, sure, great. I like the idea of a go-kart track. Sure, I'm going to go out there and race around. I've got disposable income. I don't know how many other people in Lorain have disposable income. And quite frankly, I'm scared to drive there because it might trash my car. But that's your problem. You have no infrastructure, no roads to get anywhere in Lorain. And so, now the voter engagement aspect is done. We're going to go to the final section here. We're going to see our people's voice. We have so many people right now that are impassioned public comments on recent council meetings, from Jane to, Garen speaking out in the public forums, to people in Vermilion speaking out, to even Joanne, speaking out, to everyone getting up and speaking their opinion in the public. I want to say thank you to all of you that have gone to these meetings, that are speaking out, that are putting your voices and your faces to these voices, letting your government know that it's not going to be acceptable anymore, that we're not going to just sit back and let them do whatever they want without scrutiny. That's the big thing, scrutiny, guys. If they know you're watching, they're less likely to screw up. We all are. We call that therapy mirroring. You mirror someone's behavior. And so when you're mirroring, you're giving them accountability. We're mirroring our government by asking questions. All right, sweetie, stop. I need you to lay down. I'm almost done. We're mirroring them. We're providing the accountability that they need to have. And that's what they don't understand. Like Jeff, Dave, Moore, Jeff Friedel, Marty Gallagher, they don't want to be mad at the people like Ames and me that are out there holding them accountable. They want to say this, they want to say that. We're only holding you accountable to the very rules and laws that you set down for us to follow. So if you don't like them, buck up, babies. You wrote them. I don't really give a crap. And yeah, do I think I'm smarter than most of them? Absolutely. Prove me wrong. So, whatever. So the advocacy of the effectiveness of these different forms of protest and advocacy seem to be working, right? You guys have been putting your voice out there in multiple forums, between the news media, between these social media podcasts, between other podcasts and groups out there like Madhouse and other people doing what they're doing, between Joseph doing what he's doing, between Jane and others speaking out at meetings, between requesting public records, between all that we're doing, we're finally getting some accountability. Woo! All right. And so in the end, we need to discuss the specific demands of Lorain's residents. We need to analyze the city's response or lack thereof to these demands, which they have not responded to our demands whatsoever. We need to understand that citizen-led initiatives to address these local problems are the only way we're going to fix it. So you guys got to step up, step out, get outside of your comfort zones, and address these issues as you see fit. It's not just about what I think. And if I become 6th Ward Council, it won't be about what I think at all. It'll be about what the 6th Ward thinks. Let me rephrase that. When I become 6th Ward Council, it won't be matter what do I think. It'll be about what they think. I will use my knowledge and my base to make sure that their goals and their wants and their needs are achieved, because that's my job, to represent them in the public eye. That's why they don't have to respond to us in those settings. They should be responding to you, the people, in every other aspect of their day. If you send me an email you're my constituent, it's my job to talk to you. That's the thing that they've forgotten. That's where they've forgotten their oath. That's where they've forgotten what they're responsible to do. And so understanding that, the potential of this wave of activism to transfer Lorain's political culture is amazing. As Jane said earlier, can you imagine? No, I can't imagine anyone else being in office but the people that are in office. Just even looking at the fact that Arroyo and Baez have been, they're two different faces in 6 wards since I've been here, has been the biggest change I've seen. Everyone looks the same, is the same, has been the same. It's the same damn people making the same stupid choices, screwing our budget up, screwing our streets up, and giving us nothing but excuses. Excuses are like assholes. Everyone got them. I'm tired of excuses. I'm tired of their BS. I'm tired of proving them wrong. At some point, it starts to feel like I'm playing chess against children. It no longer has any gratification to me to prove them wrong or to be right. It makes me sad because they are so wrong. And I'm exhausted at trying to fix everything. I can't do it all. So it's important that everyone step up and be the catalyst for change and make sure that that you guys are participating to make sure your voices are heard, because it's not just about mine, it's about everyone's voice. No matter what we all may think, everyone's voice matters, not just one. So, in that article, it talked about that Elmore situation. You look at that and you go, they give 5 minutes. We talked about possible 3 minutes. I do think there needs to be a change to the rules on the minutes. Now, the ongoing, challenge will be to work on critical infrastructure problems that are facing Lorain. We need to find long-term solutions and, work on strategic planning, especially when it comes to our streets and making sure that they're getting fixed. We need to acknowledge the frustration and the fatigue felt by many of the residents, and most likely your government. People like Dan Nutt, out, right? Don't blame them. Because in all honesty, as much as we crap on them, they are basically doing this for minimal dollars. I'm going to be doing it for minimal dollars, but I'm already doing it for no dollars. So it just feels like, why not? And they volunteered, right? They want these jobs. So when someone like Jeff Riddell says to me, you seem to, want to do want to, because I don't want the job of county commissioner. You do. You campaigned for it. You put money into it. You put signs up in people's yards. You said, I can do this. So I don't want it. I want you to do it. Just like if you elect me, it's not because you want to do the job. It's because you don't want to do the job. You elect me because you want to vote and forget about it, right? Until you need me. And then when you need me, you want to know that you can pick up the phone and get a hold of me, or at least I'll respond to you in a reasonable amount of time and not blow you the F off. And once I'm in office, that's going to be the case. If nothing else, I don't like to be wrong, so I don't want to be proven wrong on this, so I'll do what I say I was going to do. And that's what we should all be doing as responsible government. We need long-term solutions, and we need to emphasize the resilience and determination of the Lorain community. A lot of people crap on Lorain, and I get it. It's socioeconomically challenged, but as a social worker, I see the beauty, the gem that it could be. Yeah, you might have to tear it down to build it back up, and we might have to break some eggs and tear down some buildings and revamp some lots and make some green space changes. But in the grand scheme of things, it starts with a spark, and you guys are that spark. And so, you need to understand that positive change only comes through collective action. It requires everyone to be on board. So until you guys all step up and say, we're done with being bullied by James McCann, we're done with letting, our government officials make decisions that don't represent the best interest of what we wanted them to vote for. We're done being misrepresented. Until you step up and make the change, be the difference, and stop hating on people like me who merely are social workers doing what they think is right. You understand I have zero vested interest in any of this. When I leave, I have another life, another property, another place. This is my pit stop in life. I came here for the love of a woman and a college degree. The woman's gone, but that degree is amazing. OSU gave me more than I can ever repay. And that's why I will stay in Ohio until I retire. That's my commitment to the degree that Ohio State gave me. Beyond that, I hold no interest physically in Lorain. I can pack up and go at any time. I do own a home here. My daughter does live here. And more than likely when I leave, she'll get this house and this property. So I want to leave her a better Lorain. But I have the opportunity to just bolt if I need to. I'm sure a lot of people wish I would. But that's the whole point I'm trying to make, is that I'm doing it because it's, as a social worker, I believe it's what's required of me ethically. I can't stand by and watch people suffer. I can't stand by and watch roads fall apart. I feel like, in that movie Tombstone, when Sam Elliott's walking down, he's like, I can't, Wyatt. I can't just, these people are suffering. I can't look them in the eyes. I can't go make my Westlake money and my VA disability and live in this house and pay very minimal of a mortgage or a rent. Also, I can sit back and watch Lorain suffer. I'm not going to go pack my shit up and move to Amherst, the #1 retirement community in Ohio, while I'm governing the city of Lorain or while I'm trying to be the police chief. I'm going to stay in here, and I can't look people in the eyes. Then I need to make a difference. And so I'm making a difference. I challenge all of you to do the same. And, I know we're getting a little long in the tail here. But understand all of you are catalysts for change, and understanding that other cities have shown us how to do that. And understanding that change is coming, whether we like it or not. Whether we like it or not, there's change coming to Lorain. You guys may not want to admit it. I know it. But I have little birdies whispering in my ear. I love that I can talk about that now. And so, bottom line is that change is coming. So understanding, the key takeaways from this podcast is civic participation, civic liability, proper rules are the foundation for good government. Proper rules in city council is a proper foundation. And yeah, much as we may not like it, yelling crap out like it's vaudeville in city council is actually violating the law. As much as everyone doesn't want to believe it, Tia broke the law more than anyone has in any way, shape, or form. And there are rules above rule whatever, like you get the rule 43 or whatever, where it talks about council decorum. What a lot of council do is also considered what could be considered disrupting a lawful meeting. I mean, they tried to arrest that one lady recently for talking bad about the city. That was wrong. It wasn't in this city, but it was like a city council person in another city in Ohio. And so you can't do that. Like, you guys, I posted these rules. There are rules of decorum for city council as well, and they don't follow them. I mean, you damn sure can't write the nasty stuff that Thornsberry wrote about his colleagues that are women and people of color. Anyone else writes that, and they're immediately fired from the job. But hey, not in Lorain, right? You get to call your peers whatever you want in Lorain, and they just don't care. And as a white man doing that, imagine if that was me. So anyway, my neck's starting to hurt. I'm really looking at a final thought here on the state of Lorain and its future. I'm going to leave you guys with this thought. Like, I'm hopefully optimistic, because I believe that change is coming. I believe that the wind is blowing in the right direction. I believe that people like Carrie Williamson, like Nikki, like myself, Mr. Flores coming back, like Kyrie Brooks, we are the change. As they would say in Game of Thrones, while much, people are thinking about spring, it's November that you need to worry about, because winter is coming. We are the winter, folks. Next November, that's what change looks like. This is what change looks like. What I have done has been to navigate this since day one. And if you believe that anything that I have done has not been planned, that's on you. So, all I can say is, folks, I want you to stay informed, stay engaged, stay vocal. Make your voices be heard, regardless of whether it's you don't like my opinion, I don't care. Go make your own. Go say what you got to say. Go make your voice be heard. Go to these council meetings. Go out there and speak for your 2 minutes or your 3 minutes, or if you're Joanne Zelina, 4 minutes. Go out there and say what you think. Say what you mean. Be the change. Just be the friggin' change, folks. And so in the grand scheme of things, you want to run for office, go down to the BOE. You want to run for office, talk to me. Talk to Nikki. I gave her one second. She asked me to meet with her at Starbucks. I met with her at Starbucks. I gave her an entire packet on how to run for office. Ask and you shall receive. Said this to Lorain officials before. You should just call me. I'd be like, I wouldn't do that if I was you. What are some of those things? I don't know. Like, email constituents inappropriate things. Email peers inappropriate things. Failure to appropriately budget for proper roads. Failure to properly budget your entire city council. Don't break laws. Don't whisper during, before we go. So we're going to discuss this once again before I go. I'm just going to say, Listen, you guys are like children on Lorain City Council. Put your phones away. Put your computers away. You can be off electronics for an hour and a half. You're like children. I keep seeing you texting and messaging and typing. And this was the whole thing that Garen originally brought these lawsuits that you guys were all crazy about too. Joel says it before every meeting. Put your freaking phones away. Thornsberry, stop touching your phone. Every time it lights up, it's a message. No more whispering. I don't want to see Arroyo whispering to, is it Joanne that sits next to him or whoever it was? They're like, you look up at the law department, you look up at all these people, they're whispering, they're talking. Look, I swear to God, you guys want to see something funny? Here, I'll tell you what. Vote me in the office, right? I'll wait till the very first council meeting that I'm sitting at as a junior member, and I'm like, I'm sorry, do you have something you'd like to share with the whole class? Because I see you whispering over there. Point of order, like what did the esteemed council member from that ward have to say? Point of order, if it pleases the council or the chair, are we not supposed to have our phones off? If it pleases the chair, why is the esteemed councilman typing on his laptop, sending emails when he should be actually paying attention to what's going on? Point of order, why is the esteemed councilwoman so worried about what other people are doing when she should be worrying about what she's doing? Point of order, if it pleases the council and through the chair, all of you are idiots. Stop being morons. All right. I was out of order on that one. Stop effing around and finding out. Like, I mean, I'm sorry, you have something you want to share? Like, it's a public meeting. You need to share it with the public. Stop making, here's a thought. If you didn't just put what they said in the meeting minutes, Brianna, I would have never had to ask Garen to go in there and get this information. But you guys are just too freaking lazy to do your jobs. That's it. You're just too freaking lazy to do your jobs. That's all this is, folks. They're all too lazy. You got people like Tony DeMacchia, who are our communications director for the school, who have to be told not to operate in dual roles. These people are like children. Put your phones away. Pretend you're going into an elementary school. Oh, wait, they still let them have those in schools too. Seriously, pretend it's 1987. Like, no cell phones in council chambers, no computers, unless it's a work issue computer, which I know that the city does possibly give you work issue computers. But even then, do you need to be on your work issue computer during a public meeting where people can question and ask any email you send during that time frame? They can ask for it, even if it's personal, even if it's private. Any text you send, you open yourself up to liability. We're going to get your private text messages now if you keep texting. So every time I see your phones light up, I'm asking from now on. There you go, yellow notepad and a pencil. Do it old school, or don't do it at all. Or better yet, I have a scribe pen that will record everything as I write and keep notes and re-reference back to it. They gave it to me as a memory aid for disability. So I'm just saying, guys, like, just know that. Vote me into office if you want to see, funniness ensue. Because I will call them out like children. I'm sorry. Like, phone. Put your phone away. Be like those weirdos online that go up and sing to their students in class and stuff. Like, what is it? Like, hello? Get on my mic and turn it on. Through the chair. Hello? It's me again. This is what I'm thinking of. Can you not keep your phone away? Must you have it on all night? I'm tired of watching you texting while you're supposed to be my government. Like, I literally saw one of our government people act like she was gonna cry because I told her, well, you can't have your phones. And they're like, well, what if something happens? What if something happens? What are you gonna do from council chambers? even if you have to leave an emergency, you don't think someone can't get a hold of someone in that council chambers, that you absolutely have to have your guys' phones on? Like, what do you do when you fly? What do you do when they tell you to turn it off on a plane? What, you have a problem then too? Are you going to go argue with the captain of the plane and say, well, my kids might call? No, you're going to turn your friggin' phone off and not be a douche. How about that? How about that? Like, honestly, you mute the phone, but turn it off. Don't even, like, I promise you won't see my phone. I'll tell my kid, like, I'm sorry, the house better be burning down, and then you can just call the clerk. Because I'm not going to have my personal text messages relayed across the public, atmosphere. That's what I've been trying to prove to all these people. Like, well, it's not business. Yeah, I know. But you made it business when you did it during a public meeting. So you want to sext your girlfriend during a public meeting? It's mine. You want to have your grocery list sent to you during a public meeting? It's mine. You want to get a job offer during a public meeting? It's mine. Stop. Like, yeah. And well, you can't. And yes, you're supposed to teach them what she learns, but you can't take it. Like, per our own rules, you're not supposed to. And again, that was that whole thing with the royal schedule me to take it. You don't need to schedule to take it. Just go take the damn Sunshine Law class. It's free, online. Every last one of you can take it. And then you would be all knowledgeable, all educated. It doesn't take that long. Sit down, take the class, educate yourself on sunshine laws, and then you too will know what records you can request. Then you too will be able to request and correct these morons when they say, we respectfully disagree with you. Well, respectfully, you can go kick rocks. Because respectfully, I have no trust or faith in anyone that I've run into in this government to date. Because all of them, from judges on down, have shown a woeful lack of knowledge in local law and ordinances. They all are operating on some sort of weird feeling or some sort of, set of unwritten Lorain laws. And that dog don't hunt. I ain't got time for that, right? So either you guys figure that shit out real quick, because Daddy ain't playing that game anymore. Like this is why I've been distancing myself with certain people, because I'm about to go nuclear. And I've been trying to tell that to everybody. Like, it's all about to get dropped. We're all building up to a crescendo here, folks. This is my symphony. We're not there yet, folks, but we're getting there. We're getting to the end of Mr. Knapp's opus. And he's going to just keep doing this until... And when it's done, I'm going to stand up. And I'm going to finish my little thing. And I'm going to take my bow. And I'm going to exit stage left. So just know that, folks. Just know that. So I want to thank you guys for tuning in once again tonight. I want to invite you to subscribe and share the podcast, but definitely, subscribe, hit that subscribe button. I need subscribers. Like the podcast. If you like what you saw here, do me a favor. Check out the brothers. Check out and like and subscribe to Vermilion News and to Lorain Daily, Vermilion Daily and Lorain Daily. They're providing a lot of great information out there for all of you. So check in there. Go to city council meetings. Go to these committee meetings. And if you're not going to go, watch them online. For all of you people that keep popping into these Lorain pages and you're saying crap like, keep voting D, keep voting D. What the? Okay, as a Republican, who the hell else are they going to vote for? It's not keep voting D. It's keep voting them in office. Them being the people that have been in office. If you can't smell the stink, I mean, it's like, dude, they're like fish, day-old fish. So, yeah, guys, I appreciate you. Check them out. I want to thank you for tuning in tonight. And I just want to say to all of you, like, remember, law enforcement, you be lawful, not awful. The rest of you guys actively participate. Remember, change is hard. Be the change you want to see. You got to step up. You got to be part of the solution. Otherwise, you're part of the problem. Be proactive and not reactive. And remember, when the time comes, vote Knapp for 6th Ward if you live in the 6th Ward. And also remember the other people that I support. Williamson, Harry's doing some work out there. You're going to have Nikki out there. Make sure you sign our petition. Kyrese. I support John Morrow over in Sheffield Lake. you've seen the people that I support, and so you'll continue to see them as the election season rolls on. But that being said, thank you guys for tuning in tonight. Make sure you like and subscribe. Make sure you go over and check out all my buddies over there at the news, and make sure you like their pages because they're putting out some great information, and they're alleviating the huge burden off my page on having to provide that day-to-day information by providing it and allowing me to focus on my election and my election run. So I appreciate you guys tonight. I hope you enjoyed, and like and subscribe. We'll talk to you soon. Aaron Knapp reminding you all, your voice matters.